That the National Weather Service puts out warnings that conditions are conducive for something dangerous happening. That's whether it's a tornado or it's a hurricane or it's a flash flood. Tornadoes and flash floods, though, are very short fuse events, right? You only get a matter of hours or sometimes even less warning, even though you can have a general idea that perhaps threatening weather is coming a day or so in advance. So then the question is, what is the action plan and who is responsible? It seems to me when we get to the end of this, it's going to be similar to what we saw in North Carolina.
And that was Fox Weather's hurricane specialist Brian Norcross. As you heard him say, the National Weather Service, they did put out warnings when conditions could cause flooding. The difficulty, though, with these flood threats is how quickly they develop and the little bit of time that some folks have to prepare as these events are ongoing.
Right, and especially late at night, right, or early in the morning.
Absolutely.
And that adds another factor to that, right? So there were multiple sort of issues with that. Now, we had the flash flood warnings, right, that were issued, and then the flash flood emergencies that were issued as well, and that elevates it even more. But again, it's a very short window, especially if you're very close to that riverbank.
And especially, as you mentioned, if this is a nocturnal event. A lot of folks have been asleep during this one. With those emergencies that Tom talked about, we had 9 that day. That made it the most in one single day for parts of Texas, and the highest that we've seen since Hurricane Helene just last season. So we want to take you through the timeline of this devastating event. I mean, everything unfolded into Thursday. By 1 p.m. on Thursday, the National Weather Service, and that's going to be on your end, where we had a flash flood warning that was issued into Texas. So we had that watch in place. And with the watch and a warning, it can be a bit confusing, especially if you're getting it on your phone and you're in the middle of doing something. But a watch means that, hey, we are looking at models, all the conditions are coming together. Have a backup plan in place in the event we start having a flood event that unfolds.
Right, and then you see the first flash flood warning issued late at night there for Kerr County, and then the reports of flooding started to come in about 3:45 in the morning.
Absolutely. So we know a lot of folks have been asleep at this point in time. They're getting waken up by, the flooding that's ongoing at the moment. That's what a warning is. Now, this is where the emergencies came into place that Tom talked about. We had about 9 for parts of Texas and Kerr County specifically. That's at 4:03 a.m. So now we have the highest tier of a flash flood warning that's in place, meaning you need to get to a safe place now. And that happened through the overnight hours.
Right. I mean, look at that Guadalupe River that reached the peak 4:45 in the morning. So it's still dark outside.
So it didn't take much time.
Right. And I mean, it rose very quickly. 23 feet is unimaginable to think about just how high that is. And then you had the flash flood emergency issued for the Guadalupe River at 5:23. But again, we can sit here and kind of dissect it. But when you're in that moment, it's a very, very short and scary amount of time.
Absolutely. And many officials are actually still comparing this flood event and what we saw in Texas through the holiday to what played out in North Carolina during Hurricane Helene almost a year ago. So Helene caused some deadly flooding for sure, and it became one of the deadliest flood events in the last 25 years. We want to take you through some of the key differences that we've noticed so far and really the similarities that are at play too. The first thing that comes to mind is the near record moisture that happened in both of these events.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, the amount of moisture coming in from the Gulf, for example, with this latest event in Texas. Of course, you had with Helene the pre-moisture before Helene coming in, all that rain falling before the storm. So the flash flood emergencies, and you talked about this a moment ago, Kiana, 9 flash flood emergencies were issued with this Texas storm, the most in a single day since Hurricane Helene.
And then when we look at Hurricane Helene, we had 23, the most in a single day, too. So now we're looking at 2 big events where we've seen the highest tier of a flash flood warning ever issued in both of these areas. It was a lot of moisture, as Tom mentioned. This one with Helene came in out of the south, off of the Gulf and the Atlantic. We also talk about the terrain, the mountainous terrain with both of these areas. Texas, we had a little bit of some hillier, terrain. Back into western North Carolina, certainly high mountains that are in place there, too. And we also had some record rain totals along with the atmospheric conditions. That makes for the atmospheric conditions.
Right. And, you mentioned that mountainous terrain, and that's significant because you get the winds coming in off the mountains, or hitting the mountains, rather, and that causes that upslope, or what we call orographic lifting.
Yeah.
Well, the air's not going to go down when it hits the mountains, or in this case, the Texas Hill Country. It's not going down, it's going up. And what happens when air rises? You get showers and thunderstorms. And you mentioned the atmospheric conditions. When the winds are slow over our heads, when the winds are light, those storms don't move.
Yeah, so that's what we saw in Texas. And another thing with Texas is a lot of the camping area was actually below the mountainous area. So that's another big player when it comes to where all of that rain funnels into. It was very similar in parts of North Carolina. I actually was here on the ground in North Carolina.
Right.
So I had a chance to see this in real time and play out in real time. But you have these tall mountains that are in place. There's that orographic lift that you talked about. That creates moisture to lift over the areas. And then as a result, we have this deluge on the other side of that mountainous terrain. So a lot of similarities, a lot of differences, more so similarities than differences, but we're still keeping a close eye on Texas in general. I want to show you this weekend, the vice president of the Cajun Navy, they actually joined Fox and Friends, and they spoke about the comparisons between Helene and Texas as well. Take a look.
Hurricane Helene in western North Carolina, just very dangerous, fast-moving water running through valleys. And, of course, you're talking about Texas Hill Country. Very hard to navigate, very hard. It's still life-threatening to even the rescue operations, much less to the victims. But when you get flash flood warnings in your area from the National Weather Service, you should heed it, especially if you're talking about young children.
And, Tom, we're still getting information out of Texas, so, of course, we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket.
Right.
This is still an ongoing event. But to compare two of the worst flooding disasters that we've seen in modern-day history, we can definitely check that box.
Yeah, and, the trauma when it comes to this. And I know you can speak to this from Helene and with all of our folks that are on the ground now in Texas. I mean, it is hard to imagine, even looking at these pictures, you can't imagine what folks have gone through in these areas.
It is going to be a long road to recovery. We'll be here with you every step of the way for sure as we get through this.